Assalomu alaykum hurmatli kanalimiz kuzatuv boruvchilari. Bu videoni oldinroq suratga olgandik. Yoshlar agentligi tomonidan Nobel laureatlari bilan to'g'ridan-to'g'ri bo'lgan uchrashuvdan qisqacha lavha va ular bilan bo'lgan suhbatlar, savol-javob va shunga o'xshash qiziqarli mavzulardagi suhbatlarni suratga olgandik. Qo'ldan kelgancha ular bilan jonli muloqot, savollar va hokazo juda ham qiziqarli uchrashuv bo'ldi. Bu uchrashuvda biz o'sha Nobel mukofoti egalari bilan to'g'ridan-to'g'ri uchrashib, ularga savol-javoblar berib, ularning o'z ishlari, yo'nalishlari haqidagi fikr mulohazalari bilan biz to'laqonli tanishishga muvaffaq bo'ldik. Nobel mukofotiga erishish, Nobel mukofoti sovrindor bo'lish bu juda ham bir inson uchun, o'sha ilm sohasidagi inson uchun, nafaqat ilm sohasidagi har bir sohadagi inson uchun bu juda katta sharaf, mehnatlarning uchun berilgan mukofot, yuksak mukofotlardan biri hisoblayman. Chunki bu mukofotga erishgan insonlar bu tarixiy shaxslar, tarixda haqiqatdan ham qoladigan va insoniyat tarixini o'zgartira oladigan insonlar hisoblanishadi. Shunday insonlardan biri o'zi Nobel mukofotining asoschisi Nobel hisoblanadi. Demak, hammangizga shunaqa Nobel mukofoti sovrindori bo'lishni, Nobel mukofoti laureati bo'lishni va insonlar uchun foydali, kerakli narsalar ixtiro qilishingizni tilab qolaman.
It was Professor Chang, and we should give him a big applause. Let's do this. Thank you. Dear friends, tomorrow Professor Chang will be in Astana for the Nobel Fest. So let me give the floor to our dear Minister of Science and Higher Education, Sayasat Nurbek, who actively supports the Nobel Fest Science and Education in Kazakhstan. Dear Minister, we are waiting for you. Господин министр, мы рады приветствовать вас. Добрый день.
Hayırlı kun, hürmetli dostlar, hürmetli әріптестер. Біріншіден, кеше ғана біз тойлап өткен біздің республика күнімізбен.
My gratitude to them for lighting the candle of hope and for giving the sense of direction to millions of young people all across the globe. Their slogan, "Together we can change the world and bring global science, innovation and education to every corner," is visionary and heartwarming. I am grateful to them for inviting Comstack to be the co-organizer of 6th Nobel Festival, which will be held together with Kazakhstan early next year in Islamabad, Pakistan. So I'm looking forward to welcome you in the beautiful capital of Islamabad in Pakistan, inshallah. We live in a world which is defined by knowledge and its application.
Of the event, and we have two topics and two prominent speakers who I'm sure will change your mindset and help you to find the right and meaningful path in your lives. To continue the topic, building an education nation, let me invite to the stage Global Teacher Prize winner Keisha Thor.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you. All right, I know you have been sitting for a while. So what I'm going to ask you to do is just get up for a minute. Everyone stand up for a minute. Stand up, stand up, stand up. Here we go. All right, reach up and stretch, yawn, and do it because one's sleeping when I start talking.
Yeah.
All right, stretch it out, stretch it out. All right. And say hi to your neighbor while you're at it. All right, please have a seat. So it is a privilege and an honor to be here at Nobel Fest. And it is so amazing that I have an opportunity today to stand before you and to deliver a speech about education. So many times we talk about so many other topics and so many other things that impact our communities, our society, and our world. But education is one of those things that we never really talk about much. And so as the Global Teacher Prize winner, I think the onus is on me to make sure that I'm carrying that torch for education. I'm carrying that torch for students, and I'm carrying that torch for teachers. Because I want to use my platform to always advocate for education, for students, and for teachers at the highest level. So it is an honor to be here today to address you. So along with myself, I am here with my other half, Dr. Tricia Thorpe, who you will probably meet later. So I'm a twin, identical of course, and it has been quite a journey for both of us, and I'll tell you a little bit about our personal story. My story is also her story as well. So every time I talk about myself, I'm also talking about her, because we have experienced our upbringing together, and of course, not just because we're kin, but our experiences have also brought us closer together. And that's why we are at this stage still together and still close, and continue to serve our communities together, because as we have been through our educational journey, we have used our life's work to really give back to education. So throughout my educational journey, I have always heard this quote by Horace Mann: "Education is the great equalizer." And while this may prove to be true in some places, it is also a great divider. So think about that for a second. Education is a great equalizer, but while it may prove true in some places, it's also a great divider. This division comes out of socioeconomic differences, a lack of access to the right to a quality education, and the inequities that plague education systems across the globe. So let me share with you my personal story. As a young child growing up in the poorest parts of Jamaica, with my sister, of course, with my grandmother who raised us, preschool education was not available to us. So my first experience in education was sitting on a log in an unfinished building shaded by a large apple tree. A small group of us were taught by a mother in the neighborhood who was not a teacher, she was not certified to teach children, and she also has never been to college. It could have been very terrible for us, but it wasn't, because look at me now. And even though you may consider this not to be real learning that was taking place, because she was a certified, quote unquote, certified teacher, but one of the things that I love is that she was instilling in us the value of education at an early age. And this was reinforced by my grandmother at home, who had only a 6th grade education. This wasn't my choice, but the card that was dealt to her growing up in a developing country almost 100 years ago that only offered a functional education to the population for free. She realized how it limited her life chances and the ability to advance in society, and she wanted more for us. She used to say to me, "I do not wish this kind of poverty on even my worst enemy, so you better stay in school and get your education." Her encouragement and support pushed me to eventually get a scholarship to the US to pursue my studies to try to have a better life. While I was in college, my course of study was pre-law. However, I kind of really met my calling in college after I had an opportunity to tutor and mentor students at a local public school. It was then that I realized how many students did not have the tools to learn and also a fair chance to become successful. So I really pivoted from my law track and began to decide on being a teacher and following my purpose and really championing their cause and advocating for students at the highest level, because I also learned that when you have an observation, you have an obligation. So I could not turn a blind eye to the children who I saw in poverty, who were still trying to make it out just like I did. So as I entered into the teaching profession, I realized that students, especially from the vulnerable population, experience so many challenges. And as I was a student in a developing country, Jamaica, there were students in the US, about a few blocks away from the White House, who were experiencing some of the same challenges I experienced growing up in a developing country, right down the street from the president's house. And though we have made significant progress and gains in education, we are still behind in a lot of areas. And though many people think that these issues do not exist in the US, I'm here to tell you that it does. We have provided more access to education, but somehow millions of children are still left behind. The pandemic has given us a reality check by really magnifying some of those challenges and areas we need to bridge the divide and to change policies that produce unequal outcomes for students. So let me share some facts with you about social and economic differences in educated and least educated countries. And as I'm sharing these facts with you, I really want you to think about them and let it resonate with you. 1 in 3 countries spend less than 4% of their GDP and less than 15% of their budget on education. 267 million people globally aged 15 to 24 are still not in any form of employment, education, or training. 40% of the global population does not have access to an education in a language they speak or understand. Only 20% of children are enrolled in pre-primary education in low-income countries. 118.5 million girls are out of school globally. 12 million children will never, ever, ever set foot in a classroom. 344 million children do not complete primary school and learn the basics. Low-income countries spend an average of $188 on the education of each student, whereas high-income countries spend $8,133 per student, which is about 4 times the amount. In least developed countries, only 19% of women are using the internet, while it is at 31% for men. Globally, 1 out of every 3 people up to age 25 have internet access at home. Globally, 69 million teachers are needed to achieve the universal basic education goal to meet SDG, Sustainable Development Goal number 4. And in sub-Saharan Africa, we still have a need for 15 million teachers if they are also to meet the Sustainable Development Goal of equal and equitable education for all. Only half of workers worldwide have jobs corresponding with their levels of education. And in developing countries, 90% of children with disability do not attend school. School closures from COVID-19 have left, hear this, over 1 billion of students out of school and have caused them to lose, students to lose $10 trillion in earnings over their working lives. In 2021, just last year, 244 million children and young people were out of school. So, as I'm reading those facts, I'm just really feeling exhausted about the crisis that is really taking place in education. If we are to build sustainable educated nations, we have to figure out solutions and do so quickly. The world is moving at a rapid pace and education is being left behind. Left behind on shelves, stuck in textbooks that teachers do not want to give up, fearing that technology will replace their jobs. Education is left behind in fixed mindset of policymakers who make decisions without real stakeholders, students and teachers, and people in education who are on the front line, and not giving them a seat at the table. Education is left behind by those who continue to perpetuate inequities and blame students, teachers, and society for the reason vulnerable population of students are not achieving. And when quality education does not show up for our students, then they get left behind. The governments across the globe need to do more in investing in students and teachers and stop building these grand universities that are ineffective, that houses empty chairs and desks and waste electricity because enough students are not aspiring or meeting the requirements to go to college. They need to invest in their money in research and find the root causes and address them. Use the funds to invest in teacher training, upskilling and reskilling teachers to meet the needs of the modern day students and the modern day classrooms. Use the money on food programs because hungry children cannot learn. Use the money to modernize school buildings, especially in the rural areas, and not just build new ones with poor enrollment and poor quality education. Students deserve more. Find the root cause and invest the money there. Invest the money to increase teacher salaries because they too deserve more. Lastly, I say to build an education nation, we also have to really abandon old paradigms and adopt current, relevant, research, evidence-based approaches. Get rid of traditional approaches that no longer serve our students and our education systems. We have to shift our mindset. Let's look at the importance of girls' education and how to provide more inclusive, equitable, safe, and healthy schools where all of our students and teachers can thrive. So, I will end in this way as I began, by reminding you of my first experience with education. As I sat on a log in an unfinished building, shaded by a large apple tree. And I have come a far way from those humble beginnings, but they have made me the person I am today. And they have let me understand the transformative power of education. I stand before you very sad still, after so many years of progress in education. I still see my story being played out in so many other places in the world. And if we are to move forward, we must do our part to advance education and to advance the welfare of the whole human race. It takes a village. We have to act now because education cannot wait and we cannot continue to leave students behind. Because every child deserves a champion, an adult, who will never ever give up on them, who understands the power of connection and insists that they become the very best they can possibly be. So I say to you all today, believe in students, believe in their stories, believe in their value, and believe in their teachers. And this is how we begin to build an educated nation. Thank you. I'm actually a teacher to English language learners. So thank you for your question. If I think I'm interpreting your question correctly, is that you're saying that in your culture, in order to change certain things in the education system, you have to change the culture first, right? Well, I don't think so much of you have to change your culture, but thinking more of how can teachers make sure that they integrate culture into learning in a meaningful way. Because as a teacher of immigrants and refugee students, I would never want to take away their culture from them, but learn their stories and integrate that back into what I'm teaching them and making learning more relevant for my students, more culturally relevant for my students. Maybe there are other policies that need to change in order to make education more accessible. But I don't necessarily think it's a cultural thing. I more so think it's a mindset thing. So those old traditional way of thinking is what we need to really get rid of. We need to make sure that whatever we're doing in education, we're making sure that we're making decisions to cater to the needs of the whole child and making sure that all students have an opportunity to be successful. But it's not so much of a culture shift, it's more so of a mindset shift.
Thank you for watching.
Hello everyone. Always my parents says for women, first of all, it's family, and they says I want studying, I want HF 6 years, but my parents don't want.
You spent your time at the university,
Yeah.
so your parents told you to get married, yeah? You mean this?
Yeah, it's especially are you asked what do you choose, family or career?
Family or career? Ooh, that's a hard one. That's a hard one. It depends on your family dynamic because for me, I would choose career. Earlier in my life, I would have chosen career over family, and the reason why is because I came from a dysfunctional family. I was raised by my grandmother, so I didn't have a mother in the home or a father in the home. So I had to go with the mindset of survival of the fittest. So I wasn't thinking family, I was thinking of how I could get out of poverty and how I could make a sustainable life for myself. I know that in your culture, family is so important. So it depends on your family dynamic and it depends on your decision as a young woman to break those glass ceilings because so many times we are pushed in positions where women have to assume these traditional roles and these are the pathways that we have to take and these are our rites of passage. But the world is changing and we as women, we are breaking those glass ceilings and we have seen where, especially like in the US, where we now have a woman vice president. So we see the role of women transition over time and has broken down barriers. And so what I would say for you as a woman, do not limit yourself. Follow your goals, follow your dream, follow your heart. Maybe that's a tough conversation that you have to have with your parents, but always follow your purpose.
If your husband don't want you are working, what you choose, and you really want working, studying, achieve success, but your husband
Doesn't let you work.
yes.
Well, guess what? I mean, as women, we possess these superpowers, right? We can raise children, we can go to work, we can come home and take care of the home, we can take care of our husbands at the same time. There's no limits to what a woman can do. Again, and I think maybe that's a personal question, and I'm not a psychologist, not a psychiatrist, but I think those are tough conversations that you have to have with your partner or your family. Those are really tough conversations to have. But again, as a society, as we transcend and as society advances, we have to really start acknowledging that the role of the woman is not in the home anymore. We're not domesticated. We have a voice. We have things to add to society. We have gifts and talents. We have innovation. We have creativity. We have so much more to give than just being a mother and just being a wife.
May I add, Keisha? So nowadays women can combine family and work.
Yes.
I am telling you as a woman which has family and works. So there are a lot of opportunities today. Housekeepers, babysitters, and you can delegate your duties. And you can talk with your partner, with your husband, with your family, that it is more important if your children will have smart and educated mother than a mother that can clean and cook for them. I think so. Thank you very much. This is my opinion.
Thank you for adding that. Thank you. And just make sure that you feel empowered. Be empowered. Empower yourself. And just remember that your children are your role models. You are your children's role models. So you have to make sure that you empower yourself and lead the way for them.
Good afternoon. I'm sorry, but it's the last question because we have next speaker.
Welcome to our country. I hope you are enjoying well.
Yes.
My question is about your achievement. What do you think? What's your most toughest award that helped you to achieve, to deserve no award? What's your toughest and important achievement that helped you to deserve it?
So I'll say my transition as a teacher, I think I shared this earlier. I did not start my career path as a teacher. I started as a pre-law student in college, but I wanted to make sure that I championed the cause for young people who were in poverty and grew up in abject situations like myself. And I think I was asked a question earlier about sacrifice. And I think when you get to this place in your life where you think that you're called for a specific purpose, there's always going to be a sacrifice. And I think I have given up a lot. I have given up other job opportunities. I have given up moving my education to the next level. I have given up family time. I have given up personal time. And there are many times as teachers, we get burnt out. We get so overworked and so overloaded sometimes. And our mental health is drained.
It's my pleasure to have the opportunity to share my ideas for how we can tackle climate crisis we are facing now. My title for my speech is New Thinking for Climate. Because climate problem happened because of our current old thinking, and we cannot solve this problem. Where is it? Where should I point it? Here? this the first slide. This is actually the cover of my book, which I published in July this year. And in this book, I quoted a phrase from Einstein. Einstein said this. I don't have to explain, right? You understand what Einstein means, right?
Yes.
We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created those problems. If I translate, interpret it in the context of climate change, it can be read like this. We cannot solve our climate crisis with the same thinking when we created our climate problem. Many people are thinking about what is the main reason, root cause of a climate crisis. I've been thinking about this for some time, and my conclusion is that the root cause of climate crisis is the free market system. That is, treating air, water, climate as free goods. Free goods means something free. But unfortunately, air, water, and climate is no longer free. We cannot treat them as free goods. So we have to transform our free market economic system to be sustainable market. What I mean by sustainable market means the market that is paying the right price for air, water, climate, ecosystem is a sustainable market. But the current market we are operating our economic system is based on free market system, not sustainable market system. So our challenge is, how can we transform our free market economic system to be sustainable market system? Actually, the word sustainable market is a word I created myself. I don't think anybody else is using the same terminology like a sustainable market. Maybe you never have heard about it. This is why I say it's a new thinking. New thinking is something you never heard about. In order to explain why we have to transform our free market system, then I have to explain this. What is the problem and the limit of a free market economic system? Until 1970s, from Second World War, people call it golden age of capitalism. Because during those 30, 40 years, capitalism and the free market capitalism has shown brilliant achievement, high economic growth, and improving quality of life. We generated a large volume of middle class citizens enjoying high quality of life, thanks to free market capitalism. And even the environmental performance very much improved. Countries like the United States, many developed countries, thanks to the high level of income, they could invest for the protection of the environment. So this is a typical case of grow first, clean up later. But the free market capitalism, focusing on economic growth, worked very well until 1970. But since the 1990s, in the process of globalization, based on neoliberalism, which is mainly focusing on free market principle for financial sector, then economic growth is no longer improving the quality of life, rather it is making the quality of life getting worse since the 1990s. And it is making sustainability and the climate crisis to be getting even worse. So this is a very different situation from the situation until 1970s. But we still remember our policymakers, our economic policymakers, economists, and our business still remember the old memory. Old memory means economic growth was a very good solution for quality of life and environmental performance. So they all think that, still remember that, economic growth will solve all the problems. Because it has been, economic growth has been very good solution for social and ecological issues. But since 1990s, economic growth no longer is a positive thing. This is what I'm saying. Until 1970, economic growth improved the higher quality of life and the better environmental performance. But since 1990, this is a bad cycle. Economic growth no longer guarantee high quality of life and environmental performance. It is contrary to the previous experience. Economic growth is widening income gap, worsening ecological sustainability. So we are stuck now in this very bad cycle. But still our policymakers are remembering the old memory. And they are simply trying to push maximizing economic growth, believing that economic growth will solve our problem. But unfortunately, it doesn't work anymore. No longer. Economic growth no longer can solve the social issues, ecological issues. Rather, economic growth is making things worse. Then what should we do? This is actually some of my analysis why that kind of thing is happening. But I don't want to spend my time on explaining too much about this. One of the basic difference between bad cycle and the good cycle is, in the bad cycle, we are exploiting human and natural capital. We are not paying the right price for the people and the planet. That's why we are having the bad cycle. But we need to transform from bad cycle, maximizing short-term quantity of GDP. We have to move to good cycle, pursuing long-term quality of growth. It's a long-term, not short-term, quality, not quantity, and not exploiting, but investing. So we have to invest in human capital. Actions we have to take now.
Hurmatli kanalimiz kuzatib boruvchilari, agarda bu mehnatimiz, qilayotgan ishlarimiz sizga qiziqarli bo'lsa, bizlarni kanalimizga a'zo bo'ling, like, komment, podpiska bilan bizni qo'llab-quvvatlang, chunki bu tekin va bizning kanalimiz rivoji uchun juda yaxshi yordam beradi. Sog' bo'ling.